Hello, BookTube. Who's up for a little morning mail haul? I can't quite figure out why I'm suddenly in soft porn style soft focus. As if the tech on this channel could get any worse. I'll have to figure out what I'm doing wrong. I cleaned the phone all around, as I regularly do, and yet I'm all blurry. But anyway, it's a it's a small mail haul, which will leave us a little time for ranting. So let's see what the first one is. A windy morning here in Boston in which the wind signifies something. It's not just temperamental, it signifies a shift in front to bitter winter. The weather that's on the other side of these blowing winds is 20 degrees, snow. But anyway, let's see here. Okay, all right, great. We start with a nonfiction work due in late May. This is called The End of Loyalty, The Rise and Fall of Good Jobs in America by Rick Wartzman. And that is an assembly line with a worker falling off the end. In this richly detailed and eye-opening book, Rick Wartzman chronicles the erosion of the relationship between the American companies and their workers. Through the stories of four major employers, General Motors, General Electric, Kodak, and Coca-Cola, he shows how big businesses once took responsibility for providing their workers and retirees with an array of social benefits. At the height of the post-World War II economy, these companies also believed that worker pay needed to be kept high in order to preserve morale and keep the economy humming. Productivity boomed, but the corporate social contract didn't last. And that's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. And there are a number of reasons for it. Of course, the gutting of workers' unions is one of the reasons, which is why I stared at the television screen along with the rest of the country when President Reagan fired the air traffic controllers who refused to work under their present conditions. He didn't enter into emergency negotiations with them. He fired them across the board. And the typical phrase in journalism is that sent a chill through the organized labor community. But it's not just that. That's not the only reason. I can speak from experience here because for 25 years I worked for a Fortune 500 company, Barnes & Noble, a retail bookseller here in the United States. And I watched this process happen firsthand. And I watched a-hole managers being trucked in and told, penalize your staff. Don't just be firm. I want you to hate them. I want you to attack your own staff. I watched those a-hole managers create one new regulation after another, one new punitive rule after another, and I watched the staff do nothing. Just grumble and complain after hours, at whatever bar they were at, instead of complaining on the job, instead of I was the only one. And a lot of times, in a lot of cases, a manager would roll out a rule. What was one from? It all started in the early '90s, and like in the early 2000s, I had a store manager roll out a rule that said that if you need to make a personal call, even in the break room on your break, you need to identify who you're calling to the manager on duty. It happened. The rule came down on one of my days off, and I came in the next day, and it was posted in the break room, and everyone was complaining about it. And I just stared and said, "Why are you all complaining about this as if it were an edict from on high? It is blatantly illegal, and you know that." And they said, "Yeah, I don't want to make trouble. Yeah, nobody really knows the law." I had to go to request an audience with the a-hole manager in question. I had to sit her down in her office and say, what you're doing is completely illegal. A photocopy of that new rule taken and sent to the Massachusetts Attorney General would have you personally up on charges. So take it down immediately and tell your staff they don't have to do that. And she did, only because she was confronted. She was confronted with somebody who knows the law and who knows common civility, common decency. She met with articulated objections, resistance, and it worked. And I firmly believe that it would have worked in the last 25 years if more retail workers had done it instead of just complaining. But that didn't happen. Instead, retail workers were told by their bosses, Yeah, you know, the 45-minute lunch break that you used to get, well, you're not getting that anymore. You're going to get 15 minutes floating around somewhere if a manager remembers to give it to you, and you're going to get 30 minutes at a time that we tell you. I remember when those changes happened. I was the only worker out of 40 people who said, well, A, no, you're not going to break up my lunch break. There's nothing I do in 30 minutes. What do you expect me to do? Open a package of food and then just stare at it and get back to work? And also, B, you're not going to tell me when I take my lunch break. You're not going to instruct me when I'm hungry. No, the way this has been for the last 175 years is that I tell you when I want to take my lunch break, and I take an hour or 45 minutes. And that's the way it's going to be. And the managers in question at the time just sort of went, oh, you know, Steve, he's wacky, and let me do it. And my point is, not that I'm wacky, because I'm not, I'm sexy. My point is that if 40 workers had done that, it wouldn't have been the rule. Anyway, I can't wait to read this, because it's a subject that strikes close to home. I got out of retail bookselling just as it was becoming a dystopian nightmarescape that I would have got out of anyway, even if I hadn't had reviewing to go to. I wouldn't have wanted to face that. Anyway, oh, good Lord. I ran right out of the bag. All right. Okay, great. All right, the next one's a work of history. This is called The Flight. Rather nice setup, isn't it? Charles Lindbergh's 1927 Transatlantic Crossing. This is by Dan Hampton, who, if memory serves, is a veteran hack, much like moi. He flew 151 combat missions during his 20 years in the U.S. Air Force. Okay, so he might be a hack, but I take back the word because I didn't want him popping out my eyes with his thumbs. Good Lord. He's a warrior. He's actually a warrior. Read the bio note first, then sling the crap. Yeah, he's a graduate of the elite USAF Fighter Weapons School. Oh my God, this just gets worse and worse. Don't forward this video. He's a graduate of the Top Gun School as well. I'm doomed. He's the author of the New York Times bestselling Viper Pilot, Lords of the Sky, and The Hunter Killers, all great Ernest K. Gahn style aviation history books that you might not know Ernest K. Gahn, but I guarantee you this guy can memorizes them and knows fate is the hunter backwards and forwards. So this will be just the Lindbergh Transatlantic Crossing is a harrowing story. I'm hoping this guy will do a great job with it because it's a great story, and you know, the best way possible would probably be to avoid everything else about Charles Lindbergh just talk about that flight, which really did capture the imagination of the whole world and really was an amazing feat, and goes to show you that it's a historical point that Steve has given up trying to make, because in the 21st century there are just too many special interest crybabies who will start screaming right away if you make this point. So there's no point in saying that great feats deserve celebration, regardless of the person who did them and regardless of their long-term consequences, foreseen or unforeseen. It has been one of the great laments of my life to watch in my own lifetime Christopher Columbus go from being a hero to being the world's worst villain, in Last Columbus Day, an inevitable editorial, I think in Los Angeles or something, saying that he was Hitler. And you can't think of him any other way, and you can't praise Columbus Day. You have to praise Indigenous Peoples Day, and that's all there is to it. There is no mention anymore made of the absolutely mind-stunning achievement that he did to navigate from the old world to the new world, literally into the depths of outer space. Lindbergh's the same way, because he's thoroughly reprehensible, but his transatlantic flight is the stuff of which, you know, epics are made. So let's hope that this is one of those epics. That would be great. And we'll get right to it. Then we hear, oh boy, wow, this is a rant heavy. This is by Anthony Alumkal, and it's called Paranoid Science: The Christian Right's War on Reality. And you notice, as you should notice, and as should be done, that in the title and the subtitle, science and reality are equated. Okay? because they are the same thing. Science explores reality, and reality is what science can explore. For decades, the Christian right's high-profile clashes with science have made national headlines. From attempts to ban the teaching of evolution in public schools to climate change denial, efforts to cure gay people, and opposition to stem cell research, the Christian right has battled against science. How did this hostility begin, and more importantly, why has it endured? Oh boy. Okay. All right, so this is NYU Press, and this comes out in May, late May. Very good. Oh my. Oh my. Actually, the odd thing is I can think of a whole bunch of people I would rather have review this than me. I will do a peppy job, but some people specialize in this sort of thing. I wish it's times like this that I wish that Open Letters had a little more clout in the moolah department, because I know a handful of people I would approach right away to review this if they had the time. If they were good at book reviewing, who knows? Maybe they wouldn't be. All right, and then this is the last one in our rant hall. Oh, good. Well, all right. This one won't cause a rant. This is Boris Akunin. This is the state counselor. Boris Akunin is a best-selling mystery author whose work has started to be, in the last 15 years, started to be translated into English. His historical murders mystery series has become a worldwide sensation, selling millions of copies and propelling Akunin to the ranks of Russia's most widely read contemporary novelists. This one takes place in Moscow in 1891. The new Governor General of Siberia has been secreted away on a train from St. Petersburg to the former Russian capital. A blizzard outside rages as the mustachioed official climbs aboard just outside the city. With his trademark stutter, he introduces himself as State Councilor Erast Fandorin. He then thrusts a dagger inscribed with the initial CG into the general's heart, and tearing off his mustache, escapes out the carriage window. The head of the Department of Security soon shows up at the real Fandorin's door and arrests him for murder. The only way to save his reputation is to find CG and the mole within the government who's feeding the dangerous group information. Can Fandorin survive corruption among his fellow officials, the fearlessness of a shadowy enemy, and the advances of a sultry young nihilist with his morals intact? And the author was born in the Republic of Georgia in 1956. I did not know that. And he published his first detective novel in 1998, and has gone on to become one of the most widely read authors in Russia. Okay, great. All right, so we have a made-up story. This is The State Counselor by Boris Akunin. We have Paranoid Science, the Christian Right's War on Reality. We have The Flight by Dan Hampton. And we have The End of Loyalty, about the changes in jobs. You apply for a job now, except in upper tiers of the executive world, and you don't even bother to ask for retirement or benefits because there aren't any. It's not going to happen. The company's eliminated them a long time ago and face no opposition doing so. So you don't get any medical benefits. You don't get any retirement. There's no pension plan. Sorry. Work your ass off, and then, when you don't work fast enough anymore, we'll discard you. I watched it happen, and that kind of history is always the most provocative. But anyway, so that's a quick ranty morning book haul for you, and let's see if we can get you your daily dose. Hi, BookTube. Thank you, BookTube. I'll get this soft focus fixed, and I'll see you soon.